Okay, good morning. We will go ahead and call to order the Wednesday, December 13th meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District, Sacramento Area Sewer District, Sacramento County Sanitation District's Financing Authority. And at this time, if we could establish a quorum.
Director Aquino?
Here.
Carpinci Costa? Here. I'm sorry, let me turn on the microphone. You're right. Desmond?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Kaplan? Kennedy?
Here.
Laloe?
Here.
Maple?
Here.
Orozco?
Here.
Robles?
Here.
Swen?
Here.
Valenzuela?
Here.
Vang?
Here.
Villegas?
Here.
And Hume.
Here.
And you do have a quorum.
Okay, now if you please address the flag and join Blinky the elf to my left here. Salute. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now if the clerk would please read the statements and the public comment procedures.
This meeting of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District is being broadcast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at Metro 14 Live. Metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will replay Sunday, December 17th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14. In accordance with Government Code 54952.3, compensation for meeting of these legislative bodies is required to be verbally disclosed. The amount of $100 will be paid for each member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District, and the amount of $100 will be paid for each board member participating today as a member of the Sacramento Area Sewer District. Compensation for Sacramento County Supervisors and City of Sacramento Council members is paid to the county and city respectively to partially offset the cost of those governments. Compensation for other board members is delivered to the individuals. To make an in-person public comment, please complete a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk. The chairperson will call your name when it is your turn to make a comment. To make a public comment by phone, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in queue for a specific agenda or off-agenda item. Clerk staff will transfer each caller into the meeting. You may be on hold for an extended period of time, and your patience is appreciated. You may send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record, and that concludes the clerk's announcement.
Thank you. And we will note the arrival of Director Kaplan, who is here just in time to hang out for a minute, because those of us that are members of SASD will adjourn to hearing room 1 for a closed session. So all of the folks who are directors of the sanitation district only, make yourselves at home. We'll be back.
Cool.
Recording stopped.
I thought I brought my laptop.
That's me.
We will come back into regular session. I don't believe there's anything to report out of closed session at this point. No? Okay, very good.
Chairperson Hume, I'm sorry, could I take the roll again just to make sure? I know there is a quorum, but
There
just
were a
for-
lot of people that went to go get cookies, so we better make sure nobody's left behind.
Director Aquino?
They stuck
Here.
together.
Carpinci Costa?
Here.
Desmond?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Hume?
Here?
Kaplan?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Laloe?
Here.
Maple?
Here.
Orozco?
Here.
Robles?
Here.
Swen?
Here.
Valenzuela?
Here.
Vang?
Here.
Villegas? And you have a quorum.
Great, thank you. At that time, then, we will move on to the sanitation district consent calendar. There are 3 items on consent. Does anybody have an item that they'd wish to pull or have any questions of staff? If not, I would entertain a motion. Move consent.
Second.
All right, a motion from Kennedy, a second from Soon. I don't have any speaker cards. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on any item on consent? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. And can we do a roll call, or are we voting on the screen?
You can vote on the screen, and we do not have any online public commenters either.
Thank you.
Please vote. So unanimous vote with those members present. Thank you.
All right, great. That brings us to item number 4, which is comment for items not on the agenda. I do have a speaker slip. Ms. Robin Davis, you'd like to come up? Good morning. It is now.
Okay, thanks. I'm Robin, and I live in my 160 square foot semi-off-grid tiny home on wheels on my undeveloped residential property in the city of West Sacramento. I'm hoping to hear an update on any potential impact fee options for tiny homes. West Sacramento has just moved forward with creating the tiny home on wheels ordinance that will legalize my home, so it would be great to get an idea of where this agency is at in the process so I can better plan. WestSac is doing proportional impact fees as well as every other outside agency they use. So I am waiting to hear an update on this fee. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I don't have any other comments for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? If not, okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment for that. We will move on to now the combined districts consent items. There are two items, item 5 and 6. Anybody wish to pull or have questions?
Move approval. Second.
A motion from Desmond, a second from Kennedy. Is there anybody wishing to comment on either of these items? Is there anybody online for either of these items?
We do not have any public commenters
All
online.
right. In that case, we'll go directly to a vote.
And it's a unanimous vote with those members present.
Okay, thank you. Now moving on to item number 7, it looks like is district separate matters, miscellaneous director, and district engineer matters.
Shall I start?
Sure,
All
you
right.
shall.
Just a couple of things. First of all, you have Bufferlands calendars on your table next to you. If you were missed, yes, it's rolled up. If anyone was missed, we have some more as well. These are taken by our staff. The photographs are taken by our staff. It's out at the Bufferlands. We partner with Audubon Society, so it's a really nice poster. Everyone looks forward to it, so enjoy. And then secondly, I just wanted to mention that this is as has been said a couple times this morning, this is our last meeting as two boards. So January 10th will be our next board meeting. That will be the first board meeting of the new year with a single district Sac Sewer. That will hopefully reduce some of the complications, some of the logistics of having a couple of boards here and bouncing back and forth. So all of you who are on either the Sac Sewer or Regional San or both boards will continue on the new board. The only slight nuance to that is that in Citrus Heights, currently you have two members, one for Regional San, one for Sac Sewer, so only one will be able to show up at the board meeting. And I see somebody volunteering over there, so I think we're good. And then so you'll all essentially continue on with the new board, and then of course if there are any appointments coming from the city councils that change anything, then we'll make those changes at that time. But January 10th, we'll see you all there, and that's it.
Great, thank you. Any comments from directors on items for future discussion? Okay, I would just like to ask Christoph, if you would, if we could send out a communication addressing the speakers' concerns and where we are, if we're planning on doing some sort of tiered fee rate for connection fees for tiny homes.
Sure, we can get a status update, and we'll contact her as well as. Would you like a notification to the board as well?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please. Director Kennedy.
Just to be more or precise, when we talk about tiny homes, what are we talking about? I mean, does ADUs count? I mean, what are, because tiny homes have a broad definition.
Sure. And so I think that if you could provide that as far as suggested criteria.
Yeah.
So that's part of the challenge of this is that we don't really determine what are tiny homes, and what we have said is that we'll work with the land use jurisdictions, and when they have a definition of what tiny homes are and they have an idea of what they want to do with tiny homes, it sounds like West Sacramento is moving forward with some stuff, so we'll need to communicate with them. But we're kind of we're going to be following what happens in the cities and the counties.
Yeah, I think we should have consistent criteria, probably based on square footage. For example, the county is about to approve pre-approved ADU plans, so anybody can come in. So and just off the shelf. So I expect we're going to see more of these. So that's why I want to make sure that ADUs are considered in that.
And we do have for ADUs, traditional, we'll call it a granny flat or something like that that you put on your property, those fees are already waived.
Okay.
So that's a separate,
Okay,
potentially separate thing.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else? No? Okay. I believe that brings us on then to item number 8, and I will look to the clerk to read that.
Item number 8, you're acting as your Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District. This is a presentation on the Confluence Regional Partnership Program workshop.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Mike Hewitt, Director of Policy and Planning, and I'm here today to talk about the Confluence program and some suggested policy changes I would like to recommend. So, a bit on the agenda for what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to briefly talk about the background and provide you an overview of the Confluence program. And then we're going to talk about 3 different topics in regards to suggested policy updates. One is merging the district's Confluence programs from 2 into 1. You all in front of you, or at least on the computer, have a board package with the board letter and then 2 attachments, the non-rate, non-fee revenue and a reserve policy for Sac Sewer and Regional San. And then secondly, we're going to look at enhancing the Sewer Lifeline Rate Assistance Program and then incorporating the sewer impact fee waiver program that's existing, incorporate that into the Confluence program. And then I'm going to cover the funding, looking at the past 5 years of expenses and how we fund the programs. And then we'll be able to wrap it up on next steps and confirm what we heard back as feedback from your board. So background, this in 2017, the board approved the non-fee and non-rate revenue and reserve policies for both districts, and it's been a successful program. It's called the Confluence program. It's known region-wide. There's been successful projects that benefited the region, and it's well known, and it's also increased our partnerships amongst other regional partners and community stakeholders. Revenue is not directly from rates and fees, so the monies that fund this program are not directly from rates and fees, so we have more discretion on how to use that funding. It's funding such as interest on our cash, like proceeds for our water recycling and biogas sales, sales of our assets like properties, and that's just to name a few. There's more items as well, but we have more discretion on how to spend that money. And the Confluence program, as you can see here, is made up of 5 categories. And on the right-hand side of the column says budget limit. It's actually more like a policy limit. This is the policy that was approved by your boards, and that's the funding basically cap. So the Sewer Lifeline Rate Assistance Program is just that. It's a rate assistance program for low-income customers. And the $3.35 million is the rolled together for Regional San and Sac Sewer total bucket of money that we have to fund that program. And then we have the environmental stewardship category made up of 3 subcategories: the Merrick River Parkway cleanup and riparian habitat. And then we have the septic tank conversion program, which helps individuals who want to connect to sewer, and also for community-wide projects that want to connect as like neighborhoods and communities. And then we have the watershed management element as well. Roll all those together for both Regional San and Sac Sewer, and that's a $1.48 million policy limit. And then our Regional Economic Development Program, which is a way to help incentivize economic development in the region, which offers discounts to impact fees up to 50%, depending on the number of jobs created. And that limit for Regional San and Sac Sewer combined is $1.23 million. And then we have our public education category, which is our way to provide awareness, educate our customers on who the sewer districts are, what we do, and then also give some understanding, educate on jobs and career paths with the districts. And that's $600,000 for both districts. And then we have the other category. If there's things that come up that folks want to apply for that's in line with our mission and vision and in line with this program, but doesn't quite fit into the other categories, then it can fall into this other category, and there's $350,000 for both districts for that one. So how do we prioritize funding as we get applications and we get folks applying for the different categories? Well, the Sewer Lifeline Rate Assistance Program and the Regional Economic Development Competitiveness Program really just offer discounts for rates and for fees. Rates for the low income, and then fees, discounts for folks that are companies that are coming in and producing jobs. It's pretty well defined. There's not really a priority system there. But the economic or the environmental stewardship and the public education and the other, we get applicants asking for grants for those different elements or categories. And the first thing we need to do is make sure it aligns with our mission, vision, and values. But then if we do end up with too many applicants for the funding we have, we can prioritize based on how well they support these the mission, vision, values, are supporting our strategic plan and the regional benefits it provides, and then also leveraging funding. So that's our way to prioritize and sort of, qualify folks for this program. So now I'm gonna go into the different topics as far as suggesting policy changes. The first one being merging the district's programs into one. As you know, we talked earlier, the districts are merging into one. We're going to have one board starting in January. And in concert with that, we believe that aligning this program as one program for both districts will be simpler for the applicants who are trying to qualify and apply, and also simpler for staff to manage. We do plan on using the SAC Sewer branding. That will be the name of our organization, and then the branding that we plan on using going forward. And it will be combining the funding from both service areas, which is considered regional sand, SAC Sewer now, so that it'll be funded proportionally depending on the non-rate, non-fee revenue coming into each district for the projects that qualify. So at the end here, we do recommend that we merge these two programs into one. The second topic is the Sewer Lifeline Rate Assistance Program. And this is, like I mentioned earlier, it's a program to help low-income folks pay their bills, essentially. It reduces their rates. It is, your board did express some interest to expand this program when we were talking about the rate increases a couple months ago, and staff did examine 3 different options. We looked at expanding outreach to increase participation, so increase the amount of people that are enrolled in the program. And we also looked at increasing the rebate or discount amount to help offset future rate increases. And then also lowering the eligibility so more folks could qualify for the program. So I'm going to dive into the first piece, which is the outreach. So we did do some research on customers in the area. We have about 11,000 enrollees in the program now. There are, based on the U.S. Census data, looks like there might be 14,000 more owner-occupied households who would qualify for this program. And there's a lot more renters out there that can qualify for the program too. When I say can qualify, there's a caveat there. It is difficult for the renters to actually qualify for this program, no matter what their income is, because they have to show proof that they're actually paying that bill. And that doesn't happen very often because, apartments and even some, the owner-occupied landlords oftentimes will pay that bill, and they'll just pass it on as, and the renters will pay their monthly rent. So we do recommend expanding the outreach to get more qualified customers enrolled. There's a few different ways we're looking at doing that. One is reaching out to SMUD and PG&E to try to see if we can cross-reference with the program, the participants that are participating in their low-income programs. They have the same qualifiers as us, and so we want to see who they have on their list, cross-reference with who's actually participating on ours, and if with the gap, we can target our outreach to those folks to see if they want to apply and participate in our program. And then we also are going through the rate increase process. So the Prop 218, we're going to do outreach and notify our customers of the rate increase. We're going to enhance and emphasize in there that the Sewer Lifeline Rate Assistance Program is available for folks if they qualify. And then we're also going to provide a person to be able to go to community events to advertise the SILRAP program out there. So that's our effort to enhance the outreach for the SILRAP. And then looking at increasing the rate assistance, the rebate or discount is up to $175 per year currently, which is about 25% of the regional sand and Sacs sewer bill combined. This was last changed for regional sand back in 2016. It went from, I believe, $100 a year up to $150 a year. And Sac Sewers has been at the $25 a year since 2017 when they first started this program. We considered offering the same percentage when the rate increases go into place, so not necessarily keeping it at a dollar amount, but keeping it at the 25% as rates increase would actually increase the dollar amount. But we are hesitant at this point to pull the trigger on a recommendation there until we understand the response from the outreach, because we may get a significant more amount of people participating in this program. We're not exactly sure what that's going to do to our budget. So really our recommendation at this point is to evaluate and monitor the response to the outreach, and then we'll come back for the policy update in June, and at that time we'll have much better information and informed information so that we can recommend a rate increase if we can. And then, excuse me, and then to qualify for the Sewer Lifeline Rate Assistance Program, you have to, the income cannot exceed 200% of the federal poverty level, and that amount of income varies depending on the number of persons in the home. And customers can qualify providing proof of their SMUD and PG&E low-income program, that they participate in those programs. And that is actually our main way of getting proof of income is through the SMUD and PG&E programs. I would like to note that back in 2009, we actually did increase the income level to qualify from 200% to 225%. And then a year later, we reverted back to 200%. I don't know exactly the reasons why, but I believe it has something to do with being in line with the SMUD and PG&E. And I think there was a lot of adjustments to that policy at that time. And this one, they just want to claw back a little bit based on some funding gaps. So what we're recommending at this point is not changing the eligibility requirement and keeping it at that 200% poverty level limit. Okay, so the third policy update that I'd like to talk about a little more here is the impact fee waiver program. So when we went through the impact fee study and adjusted the impact fees earlier this year, we did get challenged by the North State Building Industry Association, and they did challenged how we're paying for the impact fee waivers. This is a program that's been in place since 1996 and is, but it currently is funded by, they challenged that market rate residential developers are funding the fee waivers for affordable house developers. And we got an opinion by our district council, and they opined and had the same viewpoint that we really cannot do that because we cannot charge higher than the cost to connect and what's been determined by a fee study. And so really offsetting the impact fee waiver costs really inflates what others are paying more than they should. So this is a program that's about $1 million per year. We do have non-rate and non-fee monies to cover this expense, but we may need to allocate or readjust some category budget limits in the future. And so what I mean by that is it's really a few options that we could look at with this program. We could eliminate the fee waiver program. the Building Industry Association, although they challenged it, being paid for by the impact fee program, they still definitely want the fee waiver program in place, but we could eliminate this program. We could squeeze it into the current program and not adjust the overall budget limit, but we can maybe shave off some of the budget for some of the other categories, or we can add it on top, add the $1 million and use additional non-rate, non-fee revenue for this program, which does take monies from what we use to fund operations, maintenance, and ratepayers across the board. They would carve out that additional money for this impact fee waiver program. And then we could also do a blend. We could increase it, some, and maybe decrease some of the budget numbers. So overall, we do recommend incorporating it into the program. I think the question here and what we're looking for is maybe some more direction on actually how. So just this might help you put it in perspective a little bit, is the Sewer Lifeline Rate Assistance Program. Over the past 5 years, we've spent about $2.3 million. The policy limit, annual policy limit, is 3.35. So we do believe that we can handle additional, with the outreach, the additional customers that we would add to a certain extent. But we'd definitely like to see how that plays out. We have about 1 million freeboard there right now. The other programs, as you can see, we're at about $2.2 million, and our policy limit is close to 3.7. So this is sort of that, do we want to keep the impact fee waiver program in place? And if we do, how do we want to incorporate it into our current policy? So that's really it on that. There's the next steps. We're going to receive feedback, hopefully here, with some direction so that we can come back in probably May or June to update the policy and make it effective before July 1st when our rates increase. So I'll stop there and open up. I'm happy to go back to other slides, but
okay, there was a lot baked into that presentation, but there are definitely some decision points that have to come from the board in the way of direction. So I'll start with Director Maple.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Specifically, I wanted to touch on the Lifeline program and really wanted to appreciate staff for hearing us and for taking that back and putting together a list of options and doing some research. That's very helpful. It's something I know it's important to my community members in my district. We've been bringing some of those flyers, thank you for the flyers, by the way, to our community events, and hopefully I've gotten a few more folks signed up that way. But I really love the idea of finding a way that we can increase our outreach through the district, and whether that's, love the idea of maybe bringing someone on, even if it's part-time, to help do some of that work and attend events. Maybe utilizing social media might be another great way too. So doing sponsored ads is a pretty cost-effective way to get literally target to specific people and areas. That might be a really cost-effective way to get people signed up to the program. And yeah, just wanted to put that out there and just say that appreciate the work and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Aquino.
Thank you. I also have a question about the Lifeline program. So I am a little bit curious to understand how we do verify that somebody qualifies for the program, because I know in Folsom a year or two ago we changed our policy. So now your utility bill at the city, if you're a landlord, the utility bill has to be in your name. We can send a duplicate bill to your tenant, but like you said, you're having to verify that you actually are paying that bill. How does somebody do that?
So yeah, I don't.
It's with the bill. You have, and we've worked with people even to go and, because landlords use a variety of different means to collect the utility. Sometimes it's straightforward and they can show that it'll say sewer on it, and then we know that they're paying a bill. But so it's been very challenging to get this change, but sometimes you can get a landlord to actually do something a little differently to show that they're actually paying for it separately. But really, it has to be some form of bill that shows that they are paying the bill.
Right, but in our case, the bill is going to be in the landlord's name, not the tenant's name.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, it has to show that the actual person that we are giving the rebate to is paying the bill. So they have to have. they have to have some kind of itemized thing that comes not from us, but from their landlord.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you said, the bill's going to the landlord, not to the,
Okay.
or the property manager or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Director Soon.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Mike, for the presentation. I do support the continuation of the impact fee waiver program. However, and I also agree with not funding it with another industry. So my question is, if we continue it, I see here it costs about $1 million per year. When you make that adjustment, what does that lower it to, and what sources would you propose to make up if we wanted to keep the $1 million per year?
Yeah, I think initially what we'd recommend, I'm going back here to the budget limits to help with this conversation, but I think that we would sort of evenly drop the budget limit numbers across the board evenly to find that $1 million so that we can incorporate the impact fee waiver program. Now, it could be that there's a couple that are being used maybe a little bit less. So if we have struggled to find that $1 million, I think we could probably drop into those a little bit more.
And so if you take out how much of that $1 million was being funded by market rate development?
The full $1 million.
Oh, the full $1 million.
The full
I understand.
waiver
Okay.
program.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other director questions, comments, direction for staff?
Just a quick question, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair, if I
sure.
could. So thank you, Mike, for the presentation. Very helpful, very thorough. Certainly looking forward to June, where I think additional information will help sort of establish kind of a baseline for the projected interest in the Sewer Lifeline Assistance Program. The only question I do have, though, in light of my colleagues' comments, so the watershed, so what funds do we use to maintain the vessel, or help with offset the cost with pulling the vessels that we are constantly dealing with out of our watersheds? I know that's a big ticket item. Many of us work on that. We've leveraged state and federal dollars, so I just want to make sure we don't lose the local match piece for that. Yeah. So there was a picture that you had as part of the presentation, but I assume it's out of the watershed management? Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the watershed management is where we get that. We've funded a variety of different things with both the sheriff's departments on both sides of the river.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. We would want to protect that. I think the key message here is that really each of these have some room that we haven't been fully spending them at this point. But, $1 million is a decent chunk of this total amount. So it would put us a lot closer to bumping up against those limits.
Have we been expending that full $1 million on the impact fee program? I know it's been funded by market rate, but have we been expending the full $1 million?
The fee waiver program, it has not. That's an average, so it varies quite a bit year to year. It really depends on the qualified residential projects that get approved and the size of them. So that's more a long-term average than a year-to-year basis. It does vary quite a bit.
Okay. Well, I want to echo the comments of Director Villegas. I think safeguarding that abandoned vessels portion of our watershed management is important, but I think it's something that, if as long as we identify that funding and accumulate it, it's not necessarily a yearly expense. We can come in, hit it hard, and then, that's going to have a significant impact that will last for a little while. So relative to the Lifeline Rate Assistance Program, my personal preference is where sounds like staff is leaning, which is do not lower the threshold, but increase the eligibility so more people are aware and can sign up. And then when it comes to the fee waiver program, I think that kind of shaving a little bit off of everywhere is probably how we're going to get there.
Okay.
But I would say if that's an average, I would think we should probably have a policy that would cap it at $1 million if we think that's the right number.
Yeah.
And that is somewhat consistent with the current program, where it has a cap of the 200 units and or ESDs, I think we ended up with. So that would be a similar thing. I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments or direction at this point? No?
So maybe I could just recap a couple things I heard. So there's definitely, it sounds like there is an interest to protect that, our participation with the sheriffs and clean out the rivers. And I think we could definitely do that. We still have room in the budget if we do protect that, or at least prioritize that. And then what I'm also hearing is that there's more of an interest to try to find some funding within the current policy limit for the Confluence program and try to trim down some of the other categories to incorporate the fee waiver program.
I believe that was my preference. Anybody feel differently? No? Okay.
I want to just add the Confluence, the way the Confluence policy is set up right now, it's very flexible. It gives the district engineer authority to, like, if we're going a little over on one, but we have plenty of room in the other, I can move some funds around. We also have reserves for this program as well. If something big comes up and the board agreed we wanted to hit something really big, we could tap those reserves. So there's a lot of flexibility incorporated into it already.
Great. Okay, do you have what you need, or is there anything else?
Have what I need.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you for the presentation.
All right.
Appreciate it. On to item number 9, please.
Item number 9, you're acting as a Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and a Sacramento Area Sewer District. Update on advanced clean fleet regulations.
I'm sorry, let me just real quick. Anybody wishing to comment on that last item? I didn't stop to call for public comment. Okay, thank you.
And just to make the note, we did not have any commenters online as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Heidi Oriel. I'm a senior civil engineer in legislative and regulatory affairs for both Sac Sewer and Regional SAN. And one of the key functions that legislative and regulatory affairs provides is keeping an eye out on emerging regulations that will have an impact to our operations and to advocate for reasonable regulations that make sense and are workable for the districts and protective of our customers, public health, and the environment, and then to assist in the implementation when new regulations come about. So today I'm here to give you an update on a particular regulation that will become effective January 1st. This is the California Air Resources Board's Advanced Clean Fleet Regulations. So our agencies require quite a large and diverse fleet of vehicles to provide the operations and maintenance and emergency response services that are essential to our day-to-day work. And this ranges from light-duty passenger vehicles to medium-duty and heavy-duty trucks, and especially heavy-duty specialty vehicles that are needed for both maintenance, operation, and emergency response for our collection systems operations. These new regulations that we will be looking at today are going to impact how both we and other public utilities operate and manage our fleets as we move into the future. So I'll give you a summary of those and where the districts are right now in trying to implement these regulations and adapt to the new requirements. So California has a number of climate and emissions goals that we are trying to achieve, including carbon neutrality and zero carbon electricity by 2045, in addition to a number of air quality improvements that are both federally and state mandated. As part of this, the governor implemented in 2020 an executive order that was specifically directed at vehicles within the state and zero emission vehicles. So you can see a couple of the points there. By 2035, we expect 100% of vehicles sold in the state to be zero emission vehicles. And there are additional requirements on transitioning off-road vehicles to ZEVs and then medium and heavy duty vehicles on a slightly longer time frame. And again, it is the California Air Resources Board, CARB, that is tasked with implementing these state regulations to achieve these goals. So there are several sets of regulations. There are two in specific that apply to the manufacture and sales of vehicles in the state. There's the Advanced Clean Cars regulations, which addresses light-duty vehicles, and that's one that's been in the news quite a bit this year. The sale and manufacture of light-duty passenger vehicles within California needs to transition to 100% zero-emission vehicles by 2035. There is a similar regulation called the Advanced Clean Trucks Regulation that addresses manufacture and sales of medium and heavy-duty vehicles in the state. And then the third piece is coming at it from the use and purchase of vehicles as opposed to the sales and manufacture. And that's what we're focusing on today, which is the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulations. And those regulations are also broken down into several units, and there is one specific to state and local government fleets, and that's where we fall in. There are additional pieces that address large private fleets, federal fleets, and other vehicles, but the ones that we're focused on are the local government, including our agency. So the applicability is to medium and heavy-duty vehicles, which is any vehicle over 8,500 pounds. And the public agencies that it applies to are any public agencies. For us, we fall into the high population counties, which is designated by CARB as more than half the counties in the state. Both Yolo and Sacramento County are under the high population counties. And fleet and agencies that have 10 or more vehicles in their fleet. Now, there is not an exemption for the low population counties. They are going to follow under many of the same requirements. They just have a little bit more time to implement them than the high population counties like us. So the key requirement is that beginning January 1st of next year, 50% of the total new purchases of medium and heavy-duty motor vehicles must be zero-emission vehicles. And there's a couple of details to that. First is what qualifies as a zero-emission vehicle. This is an all-electric vehicle or a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, or there are a few types of plug-in hybrids that can qualify. There are plug-in hybrids that do not qualify. They need to meet certain standards to be all-electric first with fuel backup, and they have to have a minimum electric range that's met in order to qualify as a zero-emission vehicle under CARB's regulations. So then just a few years later, January 1st, 2027, the requirement for new vehicle purchases is that 100% of public fleet purchases must be zero-emission vehicles. And there are also considerations to assure that this also applies to any leased fleets by public agencies as well. It's not purely just the vehicles you own. If you're leasing fleets, then it would also apply. There are exemptions and extensions that are available within the regulations in the event there are specific situations where a zero-emission vehicle will not work or cannot work or is not available and a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle is needed. We've listed a few of those here. There are some two-engine vehicles that would have an exemption. Emergency backup vehicles can be exempt, but there are specific requirements. Of a backup has to be a vehicle that's used less than 1,000 miles per year, and you perform reporting to CARB to verify that. There are some important extensions that we know will likely be needed by most public agencies for charging infrastructure. If you're transitioning a fleet to zero-emission vehicles, you're going to need a lot more electric charging infrastructure. And that's going to be a challenge not just for the corp yards and the agencies that are implementing that, but also in working with your local electricity providers. So the regulations do allow for a process to apply for an extension to allow more time to get that infrastructure built. And it's phased, but you can get up to 5 years of delay. All of these exemptions and extensions are subject to CARB staff approval. There's a little bit of definition within the regulations, but CARB staff are going to be working to further define that, develop the forms and approaches for requesting these exemptions and exceptions. Additionally, the regulations require public fleets to report our fleet makeup and mileage and purchases. That begins on April 1st of 2024 and will continually annually thereafter. And as I mentioned, these requirements are affecting how we purchase vehicles and other fleets, how they purchase vehicles, but those other two regulations, advanced clean cars and trucks, are on the manufacturer and sales side as to what will be available. So we have these 2024 and 2027 dates of, as we're phasing out older vehicles and buying new ones, we will start buying ZEVs, and then it's 2035 and 2036 in which manufacturers will no longer be able to sell internal combustion engine vehicles. So, resources for assisting us and other agencies in implementing these new regulations. CARB is providing training webinars and fact sheets to help us through this process. They've also developed a truck regulations implementation group, and they've established 4 subgroups to help look at getting these regulations implemented in a way that works and helping agencies through those exemptions and extensions. We work extensively with the California Association of Sanitation Agencies on a variety of regulatory issues, and they provided a lot of support and advocacy on this issue. They are in direct contact with CARB staff regarding assisting wastewater agencies across the state with implementing these regulations. And we also have 2 CASA members that sit on the truck regulations implementation group, and will continue to provide both the perspective from the wastewater industry and bring information back to our agencies on how to successfully implement this. There has been related legislation proposed. AB 1594, which is state legislation, was passed by the legislature this year and signed by the governor into law. And this is to specifically provide a little bit more flexibility for utility operations and emergency response. And that bill directs CARB to ensure that public agencies can consider purchase of traditional internal combustion engine vehicles if they are needed to maintain the operations of their utility and be able to respond to emergency situations. Now, staff will need to decide how to interpret that bill and work that into the regulations. So I think that's going to be a process over the next month or year. There's also federal legislation that is currently in Congress. It's passed out of the House and is scheduled to go next to the Senate. And this is a bill that would actually prevent states from requiring the purchase of zero-emission vehicles. In September, the White House issued a letter indicating a strong opposed position to this bill. So we'll wait and see where that one goes. Funding. There is funding available primarily through CARB and local air districts, and a little bit of federal money through the Inflation Reduction Act for ZEVs and for electric charging infrastructure. However, the majority of the vehicle funding that's available is only available for early implementation, not for compliance with state regulations. So we're still investigating funding and trying to find methods to ease implementation, but it may be for what we're able to do on the early end before the end of the requirements in 2027. So potential impacts. Obviously, we will be changing how we run and manage and purchase vehicles, and considering full electric, potentially plug-in hybrid, and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles to phase in as we phase out internal combustion vehicles. The charging infrastructure is a challenge, and we're looking at that now, both the electrical power, but also the footprint, having enough space to get medium and heavy-duty vehicles into a yard, turn them around, and have enough room for charging them. There'll be changing maintenance and training needs for those that operate and maintain the vehicles, having a mixture over the next couple of decades of ICE, electric, and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, while ensuring that we're ready to respond to emergencies and continue our 24/7 operations. At the beginning, we expect there may be time delays in getting exemptions and extensions approved. It's going to be a process working with CARB to figure out how those are implemented, and there will be cost impacts. We need to do more work and analysis to determine how much those cost impacts will be. We've got a master planning effort that I'll tell you a little bit about, but we're also seeing that also traditional vehicle costs are increasing as well. The cost to purchase, especially the specialty sewer vehicles that we need for our business, have gone up significantly in the next couple of years, and ZEVs may be potentially even more expensive. We expect that they will be more expensive. So how many vehicles do we have that may be affected by this turnover in regulation? Sac Sewer has approximately 135 medium and heavy-duty vehicles, and Regional San has 42. Now, that's the vehicles that may be affected. There are some that may be covered under certain exemptions, and it's also possible, as we're performing our fleet management analysis, there are some vehicles that will look at, well, if we have a 3/4 ton pickup doing a certain job right now, could that job be done by a 1/2 ton pickup that is a light-duty vehicle instead of a heavy-duty vehicle? And that's the type of analysis that's done anyway in looking at vehicle replacement, but that'll be a consideration between light-duty and heavy-duty vehicles. Our charging stations that we have now, we have them at 3 of our facilities, and the numbers are listed on the slide. Those are designed for light-duty vehicles. Will require an expansion to be able to accommodate more vehicles, and we'll also have to look at spacing and sizing, the footprint, and the charging level, and how quickly these chargers can charge vehicles. And if it's a heavy-duty that has a much bigger battery, we might need more than a light-duty charger. So to that end, we have a fleet management plan that is currently underway. The effort was kicked off in 2022, and it really has been shifting as these regulations have been developed and have now been approved to incorporate the new Advanced Clean Fleet regulations into how we're evaluating the fleet. The management plan is a cross-departmental team that does have fleet consultant support. And the new regulations, as I mentioned, are shifting how we look at potential replacement, how vehicles are used, and what they might be replaced with. And also considering the changing fleet support needs, including charging or hydrogen fueling stations, and then the differing maintenance and reliability needs of these vehicles that are different from traditional internal combustion engines. That management plan is anticipated to be complete this coming summer. A little bit more specifics on the charging needs. Again, the light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles are used at our three main facilities, but the ZEV versions may have different charging needs and footprint needs. We are coordinating with SMUD on grid capacity at each location to look at that, and SMUD has a specific program to assist agencies in evaluating their charging and vehicle needs and implementing that. That effort will be continuing through the next few months of the new year. And as I mentioned, evaluating footprint needs. So our next steps. The fleet management plan, as I mentioned, is expected to be completed this coming summer. The charging infrastructure analysis will be a little bit more complicated, and it will be achieved in phases at each of our 3 sites. So there's initial work that's happening up front now, but as the vehicles are projected to turn over, we'll look at expanding the charging in a phased approach and need to develop more detail on that over the next few years. We will begin our compliance and reporting with the new regulations. The regulations are effective January. Our first report is due by April 1st. And then we plan to return to your board with additional information in the latter half of 2024 after we've completed our fleet management plan, having a better idea of the infrastructure and vehicle needs and the associated costs. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I do have a couple of questions just to start off. First of all, our fleet management plan, does that include the utility life of the vehicle, whether it's miles traveled or hours of service?
Yes, it looks at a variety of factors for each vehicle and the use. Yeah.
And so in those shelf lives, do we have any that would be beyond 2045?
That is a great question. I don't believe so. I can answer it from the perspective of the CARB regulations, which is that the maximum anticipated life of a vehicle is 18 years or 800,000 miles, whichever comes first.
Okay.
So vehicles are expected to be retired before that point.
Okay. And then, all right, so back to the CARB regulations then. If I just want to make sure I understand the timing here. We have all vehicles by 2035. But for public agency, medium and heavy duty vehicles, that date moves up to 2027?
Well, it's coming at it from 2 angles. So the 2035 is when 2035 for light duty vehicles, manufacturers will only be able to sell ZEVs in California. And then it's the next year, 2036, for medium and heavy duty vehicles. For the purchase by public agencies, it's starting now in that 2024 until 2027, when we buy new vehicles, we can buy at most 50% traditional internal combustion. We must buy at least 50% ZEVs. And then 2027 is when we, the public agencies, are buying 100% ZEVs, but we've still got some of those traditional ICE engines in our fleet. When we get to 2035, we still have the requirement to buy 100%, but that's the point at which the manufacturers will not be able to sell internal combustion.
Which is what I thought I heard, so thank you.
Yeah.
And then all vehicles in service by 2045 have to be ZEV. Is that correct?
That is not a direct requirement. That is the anticipation that through these combined regulations, both the available sales and through the required purchases we're focusing on public agencies, but there are very similar requirements for large private fleets and federal fleets, that those combined will get us to the point of 100% ZEV heavy and medium duty vehicles on the road by 2045. But that is only 10 years later. So right now, the way it's set up, if you buy an internal combustion vehicle in 2034, you could still be operating it in 2045.
Okay. Any other questions on this item? Director Villegas?
Just a quick question. So first of all, thank you for the presentation, because I think you represent all public agencies, not just this one. It just happens to be that you guys are ahead of it. So thank you for kind of forecasting what the fleet management plan might look like. It's my understanding that despite all of this, much of which we can debate forever, the manufacturers aren't really ready yet in many spaces to accommodate in the event that turn the corner 2024, we're ready to purchase a couple because they've outlasted their shelf life. There aren't the products that we need to replace the one-for-one. So there's going to be even another layer of complexity in this space, not the least of which is certainly in the YOLO half of the world with, the PG&E challenges that we face. There's a lot of work to be done in just creating the infrastructure, let alone the manufacturer's readiness for it. So I just stating the obvious, but I just wanted to thank you for the presentation, because I think you represent all public agencies. So when we go back to our respective jurisdictions, it's the same exact situation. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Okay, this item is receive and file. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, that brings us on to, I believe, the next, which is the consent calendar for SASD.
Sorry, I needed to remind that there are no public comments. There were no public comments online for item number 9 or in chambers.
Thank you.
I did not receive any speaker requests. Yes, we are moving on to Sacramento Area Sewer District consent matters, items 10 through 14.
All right. For the sewer district directors, any questions on the consent? Any item to be pulled? Any public comment on the consent calendar for SASD?
I do not have any speakers in queue or any speaker request forms.
All right, I have a motion from Kennedy. Is there a second? Don't believe you are an SASD director.
Second.
Okay, I heard a second coming from Director Aquino.
Thank you.
That brings us to a vote.
Please vote, and this would be SAC sewer members only, please. Thank you. And the motion passes by unanimous vote by those members present.
Excellent. And Section 2, miscellaneous matters or communications received and filed. The Financing Authority meeting is canceled. And so I believe that brings us to the end of the meeting. Little ahead of schedule. Thank you all. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll see you as one district in January.
Hey. Excellent.